Hi guys, I'm Nitin Jethwa, second year BTech student at Walchand College of Engineering, Sangli, and today I'm going to discuss on the topic handoff. So let's start with basic. So what is a cell? Cell is nothing but actual coverage area of the mobile base station. So it is necessary to have one base station in a particular region located at the center. The concept of cellular telephone service was first proposed in 1940s. This concept was proposed in order to reuse the frequency. The first cellular system was proposed by AT&T and the Bell Company, which would use many low power transmitters with antennas mounted on shorter towers to provide a much shorter frequency reuse distance. The area served by each transmitter would be considered a cell. So, before understanding frequency reuse and frequency number, let us understand cellular hierarchy. First, picocells. The cells whose diameter is less than 10 meters is known as picocells. Second, microcells. The cells with diameter ranging from 100 to 1000 meters is known as microcells. Third, macrocells. The cells with diameter greater than 1000 meters is known as macrocells. Now, megacells. The cells which covered the global area or the global region is known as megacells. And the last, femtocells. The cells which covers the smallest area or the smallest region is known as femtocells. As shown in the figure, there are hexagonal cells for theoretical coverage and cellular cells for ideal coverage. Since every base station uses unidirectional antennas, it radiates signal at 360 degrees, so ideal coverage would be circular. But you might be puzzled that a cellular industry prefers hexagonal cell structure. Why? Propagation conditions, environmental conditions contributes to the distortion of the antenna's radiation pattern and hence coverage area. Furthermore, using circles to lay out network coverage area gives a gap between the adjacent cells if the circles are overlap. Comparing to this, hexagon covers complete theoretical area without any gap. Squares and rectangles would also work, but hexagon covers most of the circular area. The last is actual coverage, which is amorphous in nature, which means no shape. So these are the basic cell fundamentals. In attempt to gain the maximum reuse of frequencies for a cellular system, cells are arranged in a cluster. To determine the minimum size cluster that can be used, it is necessary to calculate the interference level generated by co-channel cells. Since there are several options to the size of cellular cluster, a relationship to determine the reuse distance can be determined that relates cluster size, cell radius, and reuse distance. The frequency reuse distance can be calculated by d is equals to r in bracket root 3n raised to power 1 by 2, or d is equals to r root 3n, where r is equals to cell radius and n is equals to reuse pattern or cluster size. Now these are nothing but the cluster size. Here the cluster size is 3, that is n is equals to 3. Here the cluster size is 7. Here the cluster size is 4, and here the cluster size is 9. So these are nothing but different clusters with different size. Frequency reuse implies that in a given coverage area there are several cells that use the same set of frequency. Since we have limited number of frequency spectrum, the frequency has to be reused. These channels are called as co-channel cells, and the interference between signals from these cells is called as co-channel interference. So we have covered all the basics. Now let's start with handoff. So before going towards theoretical definition, I am going to give you a rough idea about what handoff actually is. If you are a fan of the Summer Olympics. I'm sure you have watched plenty of track events, especially the exciting 400 and 800-meter relays. Four athletes run in each event and hand a baton off to the next athlete until the race is complete, although the hands-off are usually done without mishap. So, now coming towards theoretical definition. What is handoff? Handoff refers to a process of transferring an ongoing call or data session from one channel connected to the core or network to the another. Process of transferring a mobile signal from one base station to another station is called as handoff. Handoff is also known as handover. Now consider an example. Suppose a user is at this location and he is on the call. So right now he is connected at this base station of this area, and as soon as he changes its location while driving, his base station changes and he is connected to this base station. Now sometimes what happens, the call gets disconnected while traveling. So when does this happen? This happens due to low frequency of the base station or when the base station is busy, which results in disturbance in the call or disconnection. So handoff is nothing but transferring an active call or data session on cellular network to another or from one channel in a cell to another. Now, what are the reasons for handoff to be conducted? That is why handoff should be implemented. Number 1, to avoid call termination. That is, as we changes our location, it is needed to see that no call drop occurs or gets disconnected. Number 2, when there is interference in the channel or signal. As we can see here, the channel is interfered by both the base station. So to avoid this handoff is needed. Number 3, when the user behavior changes, that is speed and mobility. So this is another reason why handoff should be implemented. Now let us see different types of handoff. Number 1, horizontal handoff. It occurs when the user switches between different network access points of the same kind. Here the user is switching to another network of the same type. So this is nothing but horizontal handoff. Now second, vertical handoff. It involves two different network interface which usually represent different technologies. Here we can see that the user is switching to completely different network, that is from this network to completely different network. So this is nothing but vertical handoff. Third, hard handoff. Hard handoff is the one in which the connection in the source cell is released and only then the channel in the target cell is engaged. Here we can see that before handoff the user is connected to this base station, but when handoff occurs the connection to the old base station is terminated, as we can see here, and within a fraction of time the connection is established with the new base station of that area. For this reason, such handoffs are also known as break before make. I repeat, break before make handoffs. Hard handoffs are intended to be instantaneous in order to minimize the disruption to the call. A hard handoff is perceived by network engineers as an event during the call. It requires the least processing by the network providing service. When the mobile is between base stations, then the mobile can switch with any of the base station. So the base station bounce the link with the mobile back and forth. This is called as ping ponging. Now fourth, soft handover. Soft handover is the one in which the channel in the source cell is retained and used for a while in parallel with the channel in the target cell. In this case, the connection to the target is established before the connection to the source is broken. Suppose you are on a call and you are connected to this base station, and as soon as your location changes, you establishes a new connection before breaking the connection with the source. And as a new connection is established now, the old connection can be broken. Hence, this handover or handoff is also called as make before break. I repeat, make before break handoff. The interval during which the two connections are used in parallel may be brief or substantial. For this reason, the soft handoff is perceived by network engineers as a state of the call rather than a brief event. Soft handovers may involve using connections to more than two cells. Connections to 3, 4 or more cells can be maintained by one phone at the same time. Now, these are the four types of handoff protocols which help in providing continuous and quality of service guaranteed. Number 1, network controlled handoff. Number 2, mobile assisted handoff. Number 3, soft handoff. And the last, mobile controlled handoff. If handoff implements all these protocols, continuous and quality of service is guaranteed. So, what we have concluded in this video. First, cellular network needs handoff in order to reduce call terminations. And second, to provide quality of service support. That's it.